I'd like to start off and just say good evening to you all, or good morning, depending on where you are. This is the Ask Me Anything session for US-Japan Global Innovation Challenge. So I'd like to welcome you all here. Thanks so much for taking time to be here today. My name is Angela Austin, and I'm the Lead Challenge Program Manager at Defense Innovation Unit. I'm going to run through just some of the challenge mechanics and administrative topics, and then I will turn it over for problem briefs. And then from there, we will go over to the Q&A. And so in the right-hand lower corner, if you see that little activities button with the triangle, that's where you can input your questions, and I'll work through them in the order that they were received. So any questions you have, please enter them into there. And at the end, if we've gone through all the questions, we may open it up for some of our partners to speak, or subject matter experts, or maybe some of those who are potential participants and have questions, and we have time to speak at the end. So with that, I just want to provide you with a brief overview. Most of you are probably here because you're familiar with the problem statements. We have two main topic areas, so there are two different problems that are being addressed here. We have enhancing resilience against biological threats through advanced biosurveillance data science capabilities. And that's the first problem statement. The second one is responding to disinformation on social media using AI-driven tools to identify and mitigate false narratives. And so with that, we have a prize pool of $300,000. We have allocated $150,000 per problem statement. And so our intent is to get through the submission process and down select to up to 5 finalists from each problem area. So a total of 10 that would be invited to the hybrid pitch event. And from there, after and following the pitch event, we will select the finalists, or the winners out of the challenge. And that would be the top performers that come out of the challenge. We don't have stipulated there the number that will be. It's intentionally left ambiguous. So that's part of the structure of how the awards will be given and identified. As far as who we're partnering with here, as I mentioned, I'm part of Defense Innovation Unit, and so we've teamed up with Japan Ministry of Defense's Acquisition Technology and Logistics Agency, or ATLA. And then within ATLA, we have Department of Technology Strategy, and we also have Defense Innovation Science and Technology Institute, or DISTI. And we have some of those individuals on the line today as well. As far as key dates, these are in Eastern time, as well as our timeline that I'll show here shortly. But one of the key things that we need to keep track of is the closing date. So the solicitation closes on January 22nd, and that is the submission deadline. And again, the deadline is Eastern time, so midnight in the Eastern time zone on the 22nd is when that will close. And then our hybrid pitch event is on March 18th, and that will take place in Japan. So here's our challenge timeline. As you can see, you have the solicitation release, and that happened on December 17th. We're here at the Ask Me Anything session. We hope within the following, or within the next week, we will have this Ask Me Anything session recording and the questions that came out of this session posted on our website, the same place where you see our solicitation. We'll have linked there the video and the questions and answers. And then, as I mentioned, the solicitation closes on the 22nd. From there, we begin our screening and down select and due diligence process. We have scheduled to complete that process and have finalists announced by the 20th of February. And then February 26th is when our pitch pre-recording will take place. And this is primarily for any participants or finalists who are unable to make it in person. And then on March 18th, we will have our hybrid pitch event. As far as eligibility, I wanted to run through who this challenge is open to. we do a lot of challenges like these, and this one in particular is very broad as far as the eligibility is concerned. And so we're targeting early to mid-stage companies with little to no DoD contracts. I won't, go through this word for word, but there are links here as well as in the event, our challenge event page, where you can click to get more information. In general, though, any entities owned and operated in non-covered foreign countries defined in that link as well. If you're unsure about your country or where you're owned and operated, you can check there and confirm whether you are eligible. And we also have listed here active registration in sam.gov. And just to clarify with that one, this is if you are eligible to be registered in sam.gov, this is the way that we can pay you most quickly. So we would ask if you are eligible or able to register in sam.gov, please do so early on. Otherwise, we do understand that some of those who are eligible to participate in this are not able to register in sam.gov because of where their company is owned and operated. And so that's fine too, if in that instance you are unable to register. And you will also need to be able to demonstrate the solution's capabilities by March when the hybrid pitch event takes place. We also have listed here entities that are or have any relationships with or appointed members of antisocial. Sorry, I've got all these pop-ups on my screen every time a question goes in, so I can't see this. There we go. Of antisocial forces are ineligible to apply. And if you look at our event page, you can read a little bit more about that there if you have any questions. And for the pitch deck submission requirements, this is what we have listed in our page. I think it's pretty straightforward. I would just emphasize that we do require that these are written in English. And so with an extra C's here saying that applications must be written in English, but presenting in Japanese or English is acceptable and allowable during our pitch event. Our judging criteria is listed here. And so this is the criteria that will be used for both the initial submission and the pitch event itself. And so it's 5 different areas here that are being looked at. Again, if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A. And at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Eric Alborg. He is part of Defense Innovation Unit as well. And he's going to speak on the first problem statement. Eric, I'd like to turn the floor over to you. And please, if you don't mind introducing yourself and what you do there at DIU.
Yeah, of course. Angela, thanks so much for walking us through that start. I'm a commercial executive at the Defense Innovation Unit, supporting our human systems portfolio as well as a lot of our work in the Indo-PACOM region, of course, which Japan is in. And the problem statement number 1, what I'll do is I'll just briefly read through it to make sure everyone sort of is on the same page, and then provide a little bit of commentary before I hand it back to Angela to go through the rest of the deck. Maybe before I do so, I think it's probably important just to state that this is obviously a problem focused on biodefense, on biosecurity. And so the solutions that maybe many of you have developed and are considering responding to this price challenge with should be aligned as such. And the way we've written it sort of reflects that. So really, it's all about detection and diagnosis of different types of biological threats. And then, as the blurb says, it's necessary to provide biosurveillance analysts with the data science capabilities to promptly address crucial biosurveillance inquiries for decision makers. This is complicated by the dynamic nature of emerging threats, where data informing responses to each threat varies considerably from previous instances. So you might have a company that does sequencing, and you're able to interpret that sequencing into data of a sort of enterprise system to detect different types of bio threats, or you think you can do that. It wouldn't be something where the government would be providing you data. You'd probably need to come up with either synthetic data or use real world data that you provide from other sources. And it really, again, is intended to support and help the folks who are the analysts who are trying to determine whether a biothreat or detection or diagnosis of a biothreat raises to the level where some sort of action might be required to mitigate or to further investigate that. So that's a little bit about problem statement number one. I'm sure we'll have some Q&A and we'll get into that a little bit later. But for now, I'll hand it back to Angela. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Eric. And now I'd like to click over to problem statement 2. We have Derek Kenmotsu on the phone. Derek, if you'd like to do a quick intro and then go into problem statement 2, that'd be great. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Angela. Hi, everyone. I'm Derek Kenmotsu. I'm the Senior Advisor for the Global Partnerships portfolio at GIU, and also providing this overview for problem statement 2, which is focusing on countering disinformation, which is, quite frankly, quite a broad problem area. But what we are focusing in on is foreign influence campaigns using social media platforms. And what we're looking for tools that are using AI, natural language processing, to provide some attribution on where possible disinformation campaigns are coming from. So what we're looking for are explainable metrics that really can help us understand how that detection is being done. And on top of that, we're also looking for strategies on how to counter the detected disinformation. So providing real-time reports to analyze the scope, spread, and the impact of the disinformation, and then identifying where those sources might be. And I saw some questions. We'll probably jump into the Q&A in terms of integrations. Right now, we're not expecting any specific readiness for integration just yet. We're looking primarily at the capability of the technology. And I saw some questions about TRLs. We're looking at, while these challenges versus our commercial solutions openings, we opened the aperture up to lower TRLs. I would say that we encourage high TRL solutions to be presented, because we are looking for a pathway to quickly acquire and quickly move forward to see if there's a path to put this capability into the hands of our end users. Okay. Angela, I'll pass it back to you.
Thanks so much, Derek. Okay, well, with that, I'm going to roll into our questions, and I'm going to go in the order that we have them in there. Some of these were preloaded from our email. So to start, the first one is English translation mandatory, and would it be acceptable to submit original Japanese version without translation? As noted and covered here today, it is required that your pitch deck submission is in English. However, we are allowing you to present your pitch presentation in either Japanese or English. And then, let's see. Next question, what level of technological readiness? I think you kind of addressed this, Derek. Again, we don't screen specifically for the TRL, so it is really based on your solution. So I would encourage anyone to submit. However, as Derek mentioned, a higher TRL may be a better solution for moving forward with an acquisition. Okay. Will the awards be contracted under OTA for prototype or research? And is the award intended to fund additional development, testing, and evaluation, or wider usage? So the prize award that I spoke of, the 300,000 prize pot, that does not have any strings attached. That we do leave the language open for any follow-on contracting opportunities that may be able to happen following the challenge. However, associated with this challenge, we don't have a direct follow-on pathway other than that prize award, and of course, like the engagement that happens with the DoD throughout this challenge. We do hope that we can move on to do some follow-on OTs. But again, there's no strings attached to that prize award. The next question is, I have realized that we already have the article of incorporation in English, and I was wondering if it could be submitted as proof of oh, Derek, is this the one that you already addressed?
No, I don't think I touched this one.
Okay. Alternatively, should we submit a certified copy of the commercial registers translated into English? I will have to get back to you. My initial thought is that it should all be submitted in English, but I will have to just verify and get back. And again, like, we'll be posting these questions and answers on our website, linked there. And so anything that we aren't able to answer definitively at this time will be followed up with and posted in that Q&A that will be linked on the event page. So that is where you can find it following this session.
Angela, hi everyone. My name is Megan Saunders and I'm one of the challenge program managers also here at DIU. I just wanted to state that any additional documentation that's going to be provided to uphold whether or not your entity meets the eligibility criteria, we'd ask that that also is submitted in English. And so I believe that those documents were in reference to that. So please have those submitted and translated in English as well. Thank you. Over to you, Angela.
Thank you, Megan. Next question. Our team plans to apply concentrating on judging information accuracy and countering false information as a pre-registered company. Is a pre-established company team eligible to apply? Yes, companies that are already incorporated and registered as a company are eligible to apply. Will the government provide any data or will we collect it ourselves? We're not providing any data. However, I'll defer to Eric or Derek regarding the collection of data and whether or not that's something they should consider for their solution.
Sure, I can go first. I think I briefly touched on it. In a word, no, we're not going to provide any data. So we encourage you to either use data collected and or purchased on your own, whether proprietary sources or obtained organically, so to speak. So that would be the best path for you if you feel like data is necessary for you to respond to the solution and or demonstrate that as part of your proposal.
I'm going to respond on the counter disinformation. So I think that's a really good question because we did DIU did a deepfake detection CSO, and in that case, we did provide some government furnished data, but in this case, we will not. So same for problem statement 2.
Thank you both. Next question. Are there any specifications regarding social media or media platforms, in parentheses, X, Facebook, YouTube, etc., that are intended to be used? I'll defer to you all for that one also.
I'll take that one. So this one, we're agnostic to the platforms. I think it would make sense to focus on some of the most widely used ones. And, you know, it could be US, it could be non-US platforms. So just kind of leave it at that. But yes, I would say X, Facebook, and YouTube are great options to focus on.
Thank you, Derek. Will it target fake news and hoaxes in general, or will it focus on specific areas such as defense, disasters, or politics?
Okay, I'll take that one. It's not necessarily, I think it's relevant if it's focused on things like defense. But I think we're really looking at just it in general. So I think, you know, I think the challenge with disinformation is that there's oftentimes a political intent for disinformation. So I think what we're trying to look for is just something that is categorically false and really proving it otherwise. So it could be something that's defense related or something that is, you know, fake news in general related, and just really trying to take something, especially in the world of generative AI, to really identify what is real and what is not.
Thank you. Do we need to pick up a small scale misinformation, for example, a person's cat story, or should we focus on information that has a major social impact?
I think depending on how you intend to use what the impact of your tool is. So it could be, using something that is as basic as which cat is the real one, which cat is the generatively developed one, to tell that story, and sure, that's small scale, not really consequential. However, that could be then used to tell the story or show the impact of something that does have major social impact, such as the head of state from some country that is saying something that they didn't say. So that's another example that you could use. So I think you could use both. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Which is more critical, reducing false positives or false negatives?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that one. I think that is a good question. I would say I don't have the answer for that. I think it really kind of depends on the situation and really what the implications are for a false negative or false positive. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have an exact answer. I think it really depends.
Okay, thank you, Derek. I will follow up if you wanted to further elaborate after thinking about it.
Yeah.
We can always provide more feedback in response to that question, once we post it to the page.
Angela, that might be a question for, I don't know, it could be interpreted as a question in my area as well. And
sure,
I think that, no worries, just wanted to quickly comment in case it was, I don't know, Anuja's, I think, was mostly in the other sector, but in case it was also directed at biodefense, obviously the whole intent would be to sort of adjudicate whether there would be false positives or false negatives with sort of a biodefense system and how the analyst might be able to interpret that. So I think that's sort of the part of what the solution is trying to get after. So just wanted to answer that. Back to you, Angela.
Thank you, Eric. Next question, what should be the solution granularity? For example, do we need to retrain the solution separately for each smaller unit, region, for example, or the solution has to be a global and the smaller unit will just be another metadata? Over to you all, if you have any feedback for that one.
Yeah, I mean, from the biodefense perspective, the granularity is really going to be defined by, how mature your solution is and where it's oriented to. If you're really focused on collection of genomic data through, let's call it, nanopore sequencers, that's pretty granular, but you can obviously do a deep dive on the genetic material beyond just doing sort of PCR analysis. So that's really sort of dependent on the proposal or the approach that a company might be taking in order to interpret that data and then offer to an analyst how to maybe interpret that in terms of the level of the biothreat that might present itself with. So that's a little bit hard to answer from my perspective, but hopefully that gives some guidance to folks out there.
Thank you. Derek, did you have anything to add to that one or no?
Yeah, I think from the disinformation, I would say the latter. So the solution to be global and smaller unit be more metadata. That's what I'm leaning towards. Of course, when we're talking about this in a regional context, of course, we're talking U.S., Japan, our two countries, and the possible influence campaigns that are happening in each. So I think that's something to keep in mind. But I think that, we're looking for something that has more of like the kind of the broader, and then with some aspects that are tailored to our particular regions.
Thank you. Next question from the same individual. Is it necessary to detect it immediately after posting, or is some degree of offline processing acceptable? I'm guessing that's for yours, Derek.
Probably, yes. So I would say as soon as possible, like immediate detection is really something that we would favor. In terms of offline processing, I guess it depends. If you're talking about days, that's probably too slow. If we're talking about like, within a day, maybe within an hour or so, because it's something that information spreads quickly, can spread very quickly. So we want that lead time to be quite short for it to be something that is flagged, then delivered to those stakeholders that need to respond to it quickly.
Thank you. How closely do the pitch materials submitted in January need to align with the content of the final presentation? I can answer this. I'll answer the first part first. You'll have a chance to make edits to your pitch deck. So don't worry about the first submission being your final pitch deck. You can always make edits at a later date prior to the actual pitch event. And then specifically, there will be 2 months between January and the final presentation, during which we plan to update the demonstration content. Would it be possible to reflect apologies, Taisuke Oshima, and I apologize if I said that incorrectly. I don't see the rest of your question. It ends at, would it be possible to reflect? So if you wanted to go ahead and elaborate on your question right now, that'd be great.
Thank you. Makes sense.
Okay, thanks. The next question, will the costs of travel for finalists to pitch in Japan be covered? No, that cost of travel is not covered for finalists. It is your decision as to whether or not you want to make the travel out to the pitch event in person. You will be afforded the opportunity to pre-record your pitch and, then pitch it virtually. What biosurveillance targets, types of threats, environments, geographies, etc., are the focus of this opportunity?
Yeah, so I think specifically you can think of all the different types of viral or bacterial threats that are naturally occurring. So that would sort of maybe be one category of threats. Synthetic or not naturally occurring threats are a little probably a bit harder. The environment and geography, obviously, the Pacific is of interest for this challenge.
Thank you. Are there any special data rights considerations for the outputs of this opportunity?
I'll try to answer that, but Angela, Megan, Derek, keep me honest here. Because this is not an opportunity where there's a ongoing long-term contract, it's a prize challenge award. We're not negotiating any sort of data rights as we would traditionally on a regular either OTA or other type of defense contract. So I don't think that applies here.
Thank you. What kind of tools are biosurveillance analysts using on the daily jobs right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's a pretty long answer, so I'm going to give you a short version of that, which is anything sort of from either the collection side. So I talked a little bit about, nanopore sequencer, collecting different types of either wastewater or other types of genomic material, all the way to sort of a fully integrated, enriched data enterprise software system. Those and everything sort of in between, as you can and probably think of all the different parts of that value chain. So the analysts, require all of that to have sort of an end product, to be able to interpret and determine, different types of biothreats and how to deal with that. And so that's a little bit of a short answer to your question. Obviously, there's a much longer answer to that, but hopefully that gives you a sense of the types of tools that they have to use.
Thank you. What existing systems should a solution integrate with, if any?
I touched on that. So speaking for the counter disinformation, we're really not looking for a solution that is ready to integrate. I mean, it's great if there's a solution out there that is already working with other parts of either the DoD or MOD that has integrations already. However, right now we're looking strictly at the technology viability.
Yeah, Derek, same answer as Derek. And at some point in the future, if you do work with, at least for the Department of Defense, probably the Ministry of Defense as well, you will need to integrate into systems. But for now, that's not the challenge to solve. It's more of we're interested in the technology.
Okay, thank you. Who owns the developed solution as it relates to IP? Eric, I think you already kind of touched on this. Was there anything you wanted to add?
Nope. You as the company and owners own all the IP and data rights.
Thanks. What are the big concerns that biosurveillance analysts currently have?
Yeah, another great question. Many. Is the threat naturally occurring? Is it synthetically occurring? Where is it coming from? Where are the high risk places, that we need to be able to have infrastructure potentially, and where are other areas, and what are different types of collection methods, whether it's even a wearable device or something else. All of that goes into sort of the concerns that biosurveillance or biodefense, because it's much more difficult to trace and understand where biothreats are coming from and how they might impact a particular population. So those are a couple of the big ones, but you can probably think of many others that are closely related to that as well. Thanks for the question.
Thank you. What level of proof of concept or demo is required by March 18th? Can we use fully synthetic data for creating our demo? And are there metrics we need to hit around the number or types of biothreats detected?
No, I don't. To your last question, the number of types of biothreats, I think that'll largely depend on the maturity of whatever solution or how you're developing that product or solution. Totally okay to use synthetic data and understand that since we're not providing data, that might be your best source of collecting data to test and demo the system. Thanks.
And same for the counter disinformation, synthetic data can be used.
Awesome, thank you. Is this challenge open to companies based in the US? Yes, this challenge is open to companies based in the US. Who are we assuming as a possible target users? Are we considering the solution is applying to DIU in the US or ATLA in Japan?
I could respond to that one. So you could assume that the primary target and audience is going to be the US DoD as well as Japan MOD. And it's being facilitated by ATLA and DISTI, Defense Innovation Science Technology Institute of Japan, as well as DIU.
Thank you.
Same here. Thanks.
Is it correct that the end goal is for government data sets to be integrated into our systems? Will information on the type of data plus be given so we can create a system accordingly?
I'll try to go first with that one. So I think it's getting a little bit outside of the scope of the way that we've organized stating the problem and the solutions that we've requested. But I think it's a fair assumption to make that at some point, assuming you're successful in this effort and maybe pursuing other contracts are successful, whether it's through the DoD or MOD, that any solution would need to be integrated with either data sets, government data sets to be able to be a successful solution. So I think that's a safe assumption, but I think it's probably outside the scope of what we're trying to get after for the price challenge.
Thank you, Eric. Derek, was there anything you wanted to add there?
No, I think so. Seeing after observing a bunch of solutions for the other CSOs related to this, for some of our mission partners, what they are looking for is not necessarily integrating into your the systems of the company, but having something that can be basically provided in terms of a tool that can be used on-prem for various organizations to use, and basically a drop-off type of capability. So that's something to keep in mind.
Thank you. Which would be evaluated more highly, meeting all 7 judging criteria evenly, or having an outstanding point that stands out as particularly exceptional?
I think it really kind of depends. You know, I'll take like just say in generally, when we've seen some solutions that might, you know, be very good at one thing, like much more so than everyone else in the market. So that might be appealing. But I would say there's probably minimum criteria that you always have to hit on. So I know that's kind of a very general, it depends. But I think that there's a possibility to have a solution that is particularly exceptional that does get selected. So I want just to make sure that you're aware of that, so that, you know, or various companies, organizations aren't self-selecting out because they are not the one-stop solution for every single thing, but they do one thing very, very well.
Yeah, just to add to that, product differentiation, particularly for biodefense, biosurveillance work, is really critical here. We're pretty aware and understand what's in the market today. We want to understand how your company, your solution, your product is really truly differentiated from what's out there. So to the extent that you can do that, I think that will obviously set you apart from the other solutions that we'll be reviewing, and is important for us.
Thank you. Does the 10 slide limit include the cover slide? Yes. Is there any specific item we should include onto the proposal slides? For example, budget required for the development timeline of the development plan. I'll turn it over to the subject matter experts here in a second, but I would just say we get this question a lot, and typically, you know, it's up to your discretion what you'd like to include. There's a whole lot of information on, you know, the features, the technical features for each of the problem statements. And so it's up to your discretion how you would like to present that information in your slide deck. Just keep in mind those specifications were put there for a reason, and, you know, based off of the judging criteria will be evaluated. So I'll turn it over to you, Eric and Derek, if you wanted to add anything additional to that.
What you said, nice to have, but you know, if you're trying to cram in a whole bunch of stuff in these 10 things and it doesn't fit, you know, that I don't know that it's critical or necessary for this effort. Derek?
Agreed. I think that, what the most important thing is, if you have to choose between that and explain what your capability is, what your solution is, I would emphasize the solution, because these discussions about budget development timeline, those discussions would happen in a follow-on engagement and follow-on contract negotiation. So I would say there's opportunity for that later. So to make use of your limited space, I would emphasize really just making sure that you're able to provide the best explanation for your solution.
Thank you. Is there any budget restriction? For example, maximum budget is X US dollars for one proposal. I'll just say that if it's not listed on the solicitation, then no, but you can go ahead and elaborate, Derek and Eric.
No,
Sounds
no
good.
particular.
Okay, anything to add, Eric?
Nope, you got it.
Great. In addition to data science tools, would proposing a new sensor be within the scope of problem one?
Sure. I think a sensor for the collection of different types of data that's novel in some way that's not already able to be done in the market could be a novel approach to it. So yes, I think the answer is yes to that one.
Thanks. I have a question about problem statement one. I have the impression that it strongly focuses on data analysis. In fact, it provides no description about the type of biological data and how to obtain it. Does this challenge include the development of biosensors to detect biological data or threats?
Yeah, two people were thinking very similarly. So yes, I guess to answer the question, certainly, we're looking at how to support the analyst, but collection and being able to have novel sensors to maybe more efficiently or with additional fidelity collect information would be of interest in this problem statement. So yeah.
Thank you. For problem statement one, if you can expand on some of the key intel cues warfighters or policymakers may be looking to answer.
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. I think it's getting to a specific use case around a specific type of analyst within sort of the US government. I think we're looking at more generalized cases in this instance, meaning that if you are an analyst of any type, the key questions are going to be around the topic areas that I discussed above. So that would be, what sort of threat is it? Where is it originating? Is there an ability to do attribution of that? And those sorts of things are sort of the key questions that we're looking at. How you develop a solution around that from all the way from the sensor to the enterprise sort of data science is what we're interested in seeing from you folks who are developing those solutions in the market.
Great, thank you. What is the period of performance intended to be? There is not a period of performance because the prize challenge award is not attached to any follow-on contract or any other requirement for performance or deliverables. Let's see. What kind of content should be included in the 10-page document? Is it necessary to include specific information about the development structure and company profile? Or can I focus on the explanation of technology and capabilities? I'll start this and I'll turn it over to Derek and Eric. I just wanted to emphasize that the criteria that's being used outlines 5 different areas that will be addressed in the grading rubric. And so I would first take a look at that and ensure that you're covering each and every one of those areas. And then from there, it's up to your discretion how you want to prioritize focusing more in on any of the other areas. And Eric and Derek, if you have anything to add, please go ahead.
Nothing to add. Thanks.
Yeah, I think you got it, Angela.
Thank you. What does CAU or ATLA you all see as the most successful outcome of this prize? At the highest level, what would the steps and timelines to productionize it look like once prizes are won? I'll turn it over to you, Eric and Derek, if you have any feedback there.
I'll start, and Eric, add anything if you think I missed anything. So I would say the most successful outcome is that we identify capability and then we have a follow-on discussion about, putting this capability on what would probably be a prototyping contract first to ensure that it's a viable solution that can scale. And then from there, going direct to a production contract. And in terms of the timeline, I think it's hard to really determine. It's something that we'd have to align a lot, in terms of follow-on mission partners, ensuring that budgets are aligned, et cetera. So I would say it is a lot faster than the legacy acquisition system for on the US DoD side. But I can't really name an exact specific timeline to say, like, what, in 3 months after the challenge, you could expect us to have the discussion and have that contract set, which is different from our CSO, which has much more expected timelines following. But with the prize challenge, it's a little bit more open-ended. Okay, back to you, Angela.
Thank you. Anything to add, Eric?
No, thanks.
Thank you. What is the weight of regional understanding, US and/or Japan, in the evaluation of the pitch? I think that's a really good question. Eric or Derek, did you want to touch on that one?
I'll start with that one. So regional understanding is something that, we've done a bunch of these challenges with our various allies and partners. And we want to ensure that, since we are doing this with bilaterally with Japan, we want to ensure that there is a regional understanding and potentially a capability or presence in Japan. So for those that are Japanese companies, of course, you have a leg up because you are there in Japan. But for, say, like the US companies or the companies that are not from either the US or Japan, having either a presence does mean something in our evaluation, and having the expertise of the region, Japan, and of course the US, but in Japan specifically, is important in the evaluation as well.
Yeah, for bot threats, there are no borders. We saw that in COVID-19. However, for the purposes of this prize challenge, we're obviously very interested in how that might impact both Japan and the US defense, right? So I don't know that there's any particular weighting other than to be able to articulate in your solution how it would impact both places, right? Thanks.
Thank you. Can you address partnerships? Are companies expected to partner, or will DIU ATLA pair groups? I'll start this one. In general, there's no expectation that there's partnering going on. However, it's up to you if you'd like to do so. It's not part of the plan to pair groups. And we do require that there's a primary company that is participating and signing up, submitting the actual solution. So if there is pairing going on, at your discretion, it will be up to you on how, you allocate, if you were to win, any funds to that partner company. And I'll turn it over to you, Eric and Derek, if you have anything to add.
Nope, thanks.
Okay, thank you. For the disinformation solution, is there a priority on identification over countermeasures or vice versa?
So I think both are important. However, I would say if I were put to place a slight edge on priority, I would say identification. I think because depending on whether it's the US applying it or Japan applying it, how countermeasures are applied vary vastly. So because of the sensitivity on information and controlling information. So I would say that identification is definitely, if you don't have the identification, then I would say it's not, it probably doesn't meet a viable solution.
Thank you. What is the scope of desired solution? Is this for US for at a global scale? I think that was kind of already addressed with one of the previous ones. Did either of you want to elaborate on this though?
So for disinformation, I mean, we talked about it. I would say that, you know, it's not just for US, it's for US, Japan, and then we're really looking like a broader capability. So I would say placing first emphasis on the two regions of the, you know, organizing countries. However, I would say like a global scale is probably what we were intending on for a long-term solution.
Thank you. Outside of this opportunity, how are US, Japan partnering in disinformation identification and countermeasures?
I think that's more of a broader question about just the US and Japan's partnership. I know there's multiple areas of collaboration beyond what DIU is doing, working with ATLA and DISTI. I can't really speak to all of the efforts, but I do know that there's like whole of government partnerships on countering disinformation.
Thank you. About challenge 2, do the solutions of the data pathway and data management system that ensures data authenticity fall in the scope? I can reread that, Derek.
Yeah, I'm reading it right now. Yeah, I think that does fall in the scope. I think data authenticity is really a part of it. So I think yes. I think it's not just that, but I would say that does fall within the scope.
Thank you. In responding to the key Intel Q's questions, Eric mentioned that the focus is supporting analysts in determining threats, etc. Is the assumption same for the disinformation as well, as in the focus of the pitch should be to present a product that aims to support existing analysts or full-on solution?
I would say it is a tool. I would say that's the expectation, or that's what we are aiming to have, and not just I mean, if there is a full-on solution, then fantastic. However, if it's a tool that can augment existing tools, then that's something that we're also interested in.
Thank you. Are teams who are not chosen as finalists awarded, perhaps because they don't meet all the criteria, but their solution is still of value? Are they considered for additional funding, follow-ons, other opportunities? So part of the process with the Prize Challenge program is that competing and making it through the first down select as a finalist does put you through the competitive process, which could allow for follow-on OTs if one of our mission partners contracting officer decided that met their process. So in not being considered a finalist, I would say you're less likely to be considered. However, we do often, as an outcome of these challenges, we'll share information with any of the mission partners as far as like the types of solutions and pitch decks within the government. So it is possible that it could lead to follow-on engagement. I don't know, Eric and Derek, if you have any other input for this one.
No, I think what you stated is accurate. I think it's still a good opportunity, even if the company or the group, your capability is not selected. It's still awareness. It's still a conversation that can be had at other times outside of the context of this specific challenge.
Yeah, I just would totally echo what was said. Like, participating in this is really important. It brings your solution to light, whether or not you ultimately are successful here. And you could very well hear from myself or other folks who are interested in your solution down the road. So your participation here is really important first step in becoming part of the broader defense ecosystem. So we hope you'll consider responding.
Thank you. Will the solution or top 5 companies that win be announced post-competition? Yes, we will announce. We will, in this case, Megan, maybe you could elaborate on whether or not the plan was to announce at the hybrid pitch event or if there was going to be some deliberation period, because I don't recall.
So in terms of, maybe Megan hopped off, but in terms of announcing, the intent is to announce the winners at the pitch event, at the conclusion of the pitch event. Of course, there's going to have to be a little bit of a deliberation period on that, on the day of. As far as announcing the top, okay, so yeah, the winners, yes, we will announce it post-competition. That's the intent. And also intend to have a press release of those companies to also provide you some awareness publicity too.
Great, thank you. Well, I think we perfectly made it to the end of our session today. That was the last question. And so I wanted to give you, Eric and Derek, if you wanted to add anything before we go, please take a minute to do so.
Nothing from me. These are great questions though.
Thank you all for all your questions. Really appreciate it.
Great. Is there anybody from the Japan side with Atla? Did you want to add anything before we go?
No, we don't have additional things. Thank you very much for participating and question and answer.
Great, thank you so much. I just wanted to say thanks again for all of you making the time to attend. And again, we will be posting this information on the event page, so stay tuned there and check. It will be posted within a week, hopefully sooner than that. If you have any follow-on questions, please feel free to reach out to this email below. Megan and I are the ones who lead the challenge program, so our information is also there. And thank you all again. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day or the rest of your night. And we look forward to seeing your solutions presented to us. So thanks again. Bye-bye.